Dr. Suver, I want to speak to you at first about Russia's pattern of behavior regarding their international commitments. Is Russia violating the INF Treaty?
Yes, it is, Senator.
Is Russia still violating the Open Skies Treaty?
I believe so, Senator.
We all saw what happened in the United Kingdom a few weeks ago with the poisoning of 2 Russians, and I know you aren't the lead for chemical weapons issues, but given what's been reported by our government, the actions we've taken, is it fair to say that Russia has violated the Chemical Weapons Convention?
I don't know, Senator. I assume so.
I'll answer yes. What about some other international agreements to which Russia is a party? The Budapest Memorandum, the Presidential Nuclear Initiative, the Conventional Forces in Europe Agreement, the Vienna Document. Is Russia out of compliance with all of these in one way or another?
Yes, Senator.
What do you think this pattern of behavior tells us about how much Russia respects its international commitments?
I think they scorn their international commitments, and they're bent on upsetting the status quo.
So what about the New START Treaty? Is Russia complying with its obligations under New START?
We believe that they have met the limits, yes, Senator.
What, after all the scorn they show for these other commitments, they are upholding their commitments under the New START Treaty? Why would that be?
I think it's a strategic approach. I think that they are limiting our strategic nuclear weapons while they circumvent this by building up their non-strategic nuclear weapons that are not limited by the treaty. I think it's a very clever approach.
So they are complying with their obligations under the sole treaty that tends to benefit them while they get the benefits of violating all of their other treaties.
Yes, sir.
Well, New START expires in about 3 years, but we'll have the option to extend it for another 5 years. Do you think it makes sense in this set of circumstances to extend the New START treaty if Russia remains in violation of almost every other international agreement they've made?
Senator, we're going to begin a whole-of-government review of the pros and cons of extending that treaty.
Thank you. Finally, I want to address what President Putin said in his televised remarks last month about all kinds of new Russian capabilities. I don't think any of these capabilities were terribly surprising by people who have followed the matters. But would something like an intercontinental range nuclear-powered cruise missile be covered under the New START Treaty? Or what about his so-called intercontinental underwater vehicle?
Senator, these are not covered by the New START Treaty.
So, all of the new systems he's announced are not covered by the treaty that benefits him, and he violates all the obligations under the other treaties that don't benefit him. Given that set of circumstances, I think we should take a serious second look at extending the New START Treaty. Admiral Benedict, if I can turn to you. I noted in the Nuclear Posture Review that it said that we would now field a fleet of at least, that's the quote, at least 12 Columbia-class SSBNs. I think the previous statement had been we would field 12 Columbia-class SSBNs. Does that mean that there is some thinking inside the Navy or the broader Department of Defense that we might need more than 12 Columbia-class submarines?
Sure, I think that's a decision that will be made and a recommendation made by leadership as we approach the end of production. But I think given the current changing world dynamic, we want to reserve the right to revisit that at some point.
So that's the import of those words, at least.
Yes, sir.
I think that's something that we should entertain as well. I was glad to see that in the review, and thank you for that, Admiral. Thank you again, gentlemen, for your testimony today.